The Season 3 Reloaded update just dropped and there were many buffs and nerfs, and so today I got y'all with the new top 5 meta setups to be using right now. With the first gun being an honorable mention, this is the BAL 27 from Advanced Warfare. Honestly, one of my favorite guns in COD history. Like, I have so many hours on Advanced Warfare, so I'm very happy they brought this back, but it's absolutely horrible. Don't use this thing unless you're trying to have fun. This thing, it will always be like a 5-shot kill if the enemy doesn't have plates, even if you hit some headshots in there. The first shots fire slower, and then as time goes on, the gun's gonna start to fire faster, and when it does fire faster, there's a lot of horizontal recoil, and at long range this thing is very difficult to use because of that side-to-side bounce. So there's a lot better guns in the game, but you guys should still try out this class. So for the underbarrel, I do have the Bruin Heavy just to minimize that side-to-side bounce, although if you want to use it more like an SMG, run the DR6 hand stock. One thing about this gun is that the sprint to fire speed is so slow, and so you can never really run it as an SMG, but if you want to make it a little bit closer, run the DR6 hand stock. For the muzzle, I was going to add the Cbass break, which does help with that horizontal recoil, but the composite flash hider I found just made the weapon a little bit more consistent since you get vertical and horizontal plus fire aiming stability. Up to you though. You could even take off the muzzle and then add like an optic, ammunition, laser, or rear grip. Like, one really good laser is going to be the Razor Hawk. Increase that sprint to fire speed by 12%. It's still pretty slow on the gun though. And then for the barrel, we are going to be adding the Crown H3 barrel just to maximize that damage range, allowing you to kill a little bit quicker. Compared to the other barrels, this is definitely the best one, and since this is a more of a primary gun, you always need to maximize that damage range. Now, since this thing only has about 30 bullets and we're playing Warzone, we do need extra ammo, so you got to run the 60 round mag. Then for the stock, I got the Ardent Tac stock just to maximize recoil control. I found compared to all the other attachments, this one is going to give us the most amount of recoil control without really hurting the weapon as much. Now, if you guys do want the screenshot, there you guys go. Now, for the next gun we are going to be going over, this is going to be the Striker, which the Striker just got a pretty big buff, and so I would definitely use this thing. I think it's going to be taking over the meta. You guys can see a lot of mobility, basically no recoil on the gun. You can use it up to long range, and I think this thing kills in about 1 to 2 less shots than it did before. You don't really need this muzzle. You could add a barrel or add a, an optic or something in place of it, but this thing is a lot easier to use at medium range if you do have a muzzle. Close range, it doesn't really matter. Now for the underbarrel, like I was saying before, there's already so much recoil control to where we can just increase the mobility and the handling, so we got the DR6 hand stop on there. For the ammo, for the magazine, we got the 48 round mag, just because Warzone, you do need the extra ammo. Sometimes I will run the 60. It just kind of depends on however I'm feeling in the day. Sometimes I only need 48 since the fire rate's slower, and then sometimes I always die because I just don't have enough ammo, so you can run the 60. For the rear grip, you could take this off for like an optic, maybe if you want to add the high grain rounds to increase the damage range and the volt velocity. If you are going to increase range, add the high grain rounds over the barrel, because the barrel is going to hurt the mobility, and you don't really want to do that with your SMGs. So high grain rounds are definitely going to be better if you want to swap anything out. And then since this is the gun that you're going to be running around the map with, we do want to have a faster movement speed, which is why for the stock we got the Lockman MK2 light stock just to increase movement speed, sprint speed, and tactical sprint speed. Yes, we're losing recoil control, but you guys can see in the firing range there really isn't any recoil on the weapon. That's another reason why I got the tac grip on there, just to increase that sprint to fire speed. What you guys could also do, if you don't mind having a laser in your gun and you want to really increase the handling, making this thing so much better, it's just you got a laser. Add the Khmer RYL33 laser. Very underrated attachment. Like, a lot of the time I will run that in place of the rear grip. It's just overall I've been really liking that tag grip. Up to you though. Now for the next gun that we're going to be going over, this is going to be the SVA 545. SVA is still a very good gun that I recommend you guys to use. Typically I have it on full auto, but at long range you can put it on semi-auto, and then you can get like, you can get those cross map kills with absolutely no recoil super easily, since this thing does fire 2 bullets. The first 2 bullets come out a little bit faster, and so when you put it on semi-auto, it's still going to fire 2 shots. So for the class, we do got the sonic suppressor, since this gun really doesn't have any recoil, so we're just going to increase the overall range, make the weapon feel better since it already has no recoil. So we got the sonic suppressor on there. Previously I did have the spirit fire, but I wanted a little bit more mobility, so I got the sonic. For the barrel, again, for the primaries, we got to maximize damage range, so we got the precision barrel on there for the aim and idle stability, overall range and bolt velocity, gun kick control, and recoil control. This is one of the reasons why there's no recoil on the gun. And then for the cons, yes, there are a lot of mobility cons, but again, those pros outweigh those cons. Obviously we do need the 45 round mag. Sometimes I'll run the 60. Again, just depends on however I'm feeling. Maybe I'm playing solos, quads, just it's up to you. For the optic, you don't even really need this. You could maybe add ammunition like the high grain rounds, making this like very, very fast to kill because the bullet velocity is going to be over 1100, which is insane. You don't really see any ARs with that. We also bring up the effective damage range up to 43.1 meters. Definitely try taking off the stock to add the ammunition, or you can take off the optic for the ammunition or the muzzle. This is just what I've been liking at the moment. I change my classes all the time because I get bored, and there's a lot of different builds for the game. There isn't just like one best one typically, which the reason I got the stock on here is because it gives us so much recoil control, making this thing actually so difficult to miss any of your shots. Obviously, you don't really need that much recoil control, but you never miss. It is so unbelievably satisfying, especially with the Jack Glasses optic. Try out this build. You guys should pop off with it. Next thing that we are going to be going over, this is going to be the Striker 9. The Striker 9 is a very good SMG. It's kind of like the Striker. I believe they buffed the Striker to make it on par with the Striker 9. This thing in the HRM9 were the meta of last season. HRM9 just got a buff. I mean, just got a nerf. So the Striker 9 and the Striker, probably the two best SMGs. Obviously, it's going to take a few days for the meta to flatten out, but you guys should do very well with this thing. For the muzzle, we got the Zen Compensate Flash Hider, make the gun a little bit more consistent, easier to use up to medium range. Again, overall stats already pretty good on the weapon, so we're going to make it lighter. Plus, we got a magazine, so this is going to mitigate all the cons of the magazine, which the magazine I do recommend you guys to run is going to be the 50. I was going to run the 40, but the difference between the two isn't too much for like the amount of cons, but you know, an extra 10 bullets really does help, especially since the fire rate's so fast on this thing. Then for the ammo, we got the 9mm high grain rounds just to increase that damage range, making this thing kill a little bit quicker and overall feel better. That recoil control that we're losing, you're not going to feel that whatsoever. I was going to add a barrel, but the high grain rounds have less cons. You're not going to notice that recoil control loss. For the rig grip, I got the tack grip again for that sprint to fire speed. For the SMGs, you really want to have a fast sprint to fire speed. So if you're running around and you see someone, you want to be able to pull up the gun and start firing as fast as possible. So that's another reason why you might want to take off the tack grip or the ammunition to go ahead and add the laser. I just feel like most of you don't like the laser, so that's why I'm having the build without the laser. Again, I do switch up these builds a lot. It's just these are the ones I think that you guys should be rocking right now. The SOA did get a slight nerf, but it's still going to be a very good gun, so I wanted to give you guys the best class for it so you guys can reassured that you know that you just have the best, you know what I mean? And then for the muzzle, so we got the Cassis brake because this thing does bounce around side to side a lot more so at long range. This is going to make the gun a lot more consistent. Sometimes I will add the compensated flash hider, but the Cassis brake overall is going to be my favorite. For the barrel, we do got the long barrel. This is going to maximize that ball velocity and the range, firing aim and stability, and that gun kick control. Those two things together really reduce the recoil more than like horizontal and vertical recoil control, which we do get that with this barrel. And then we are going to have a lot of cons, but again, this is the primary. We got to make it as strong as possible at long range, as much recoil control as possible, and the mobility doesn't matter since you got your secondary to make up that mobility. For the magazine, we do got the 50 mag, that's a given. And then for the rig grip, I do got the assault grip. You could take this off for maybe you want to have DR6 hand stop for a faster ADS, or maybe you want the Bruin heavy underbarrel, so then there's even less recoil on the gun. Well, I guess you know they both reduce recoil a lot. I just like the assault grip. You might like the big underbarrel instead. And then for the stock, I do recommend you guys to always have the Motion V2 heavy stock. This one's going to give us the most amount of recoil control with the least amount of cons. Definitely a must on this gun. And again, you could take off the rig grip for maybe an optic, maybe like the Jack Glasses, but the iron sights really aren't that bad, and the gun's super easy to use, so you guys should do fine with this class. Definitely a banger class. Now for the last gun on the list, I believe, yeah, this is going to be the WSP9, which they just buffed it. I don't really know why. Maybe they just want people to use it and they want it to be like the meta because they got a lot of cool bundles for it or something, but this thing is even better now. So you guys could see not that much recoil, a little bit, but not that much. You'll be fine in game. And then also a lot of damage range, very fast time to kill, and they just increase that sprint to fire speed more. I think they did that because this thing has an openable delay, so basically when you go to pull the trigger, there's going to be a delay to when the gun actually fires. So I think that's why they increased the sprint to fire speed by so much more. Now with this build, you guys can see we have 61 milliseconds. That is absolutely insane. You could even make it more, but I don't think you really need a faster sprint to fire speed than that. And so with the DR6 hand stop, a lot of mobility. For you might want to add the Phantom 5, so then you get recoil control and sprint to fire speed. For me though, I am fine with the recoil on the weapon, so I'm going to have the DR6 hand stop. You could take off the optic, then go over to the barrel and then add the, I believe it is the WSP zip barrel. This one, yes, it hurts the damage range, but look at that sprint to fire speed. I guarantee you have not seen an SMG in this game with a faster sprint to fire speed. This thing is dumb broken up close. You should win every gunfight. You could even add the short barrel because it adds mobility and handling if you are good with the optic. I mean, if you're good without running an optic. For me, I really like the Nida model. I do better with an optic, not all the time. right now, you know, I like the optics, so personal preference right there. For the stock, I got the factory stock again for that movement speed. This is going to be the gun that we're using to run around the map, get from point A to point B a little bit quicker, so we got the factory on there. And then we do got the 40 round mag. Could add the 50, up to you. The fire rate's a little bit slower, so I don't think you really need the 50, but you might want the 50. For me, I like that 40. Now, to increase the overall bullet velocity, making it feel like you're playing on a better ping and make this thing kill a little bit quicker at range, since, you know, you do have the capability to use this thing at long range. So we got the high grain rounds, making it a little bit better. So if you guys do want the screenshot, there you guys go. And that's gonna wrap it up. Deuces.